Brandon loves making video games. He reads about scientists who use mazes and rats to understand how living things learn and remember. This helps him design better games. He believes memory is super important for humanity to move forward. One sunny day, Brandon, his wife Claire, and their daughter Sam go to the beach. They have a great time playing in the sand and the water. After a short nap, Sam decides to look for seashells with her favorite toy, Curious George. She promises not to go into the water. While Sam is busy with the shells, the waves take away her toy. Sam bravely tries to get it back, but gets carried away by the strong sea currents. Despite everyone's support, Sam doesn't make it back. Brandon and Claire are heartbroken. Brandon spends a lot of time crying in Sam's room. A few months later, Claire decides it's time to pack up Sam's room. She wants to move on, but Brandon isn't ready. He panics and asks Claire to put everything back in its place. As Brandon goes through Sam's favorite books, he notices something strange. The title Berenstain Bears is written with an A, but he remembers it with an E. This confuses him. One night, Brandon can't sleep. He hears a noise and grabs a bat, ready to defend his home. It turns out to be his brother-in-law Matt raiding the fridge. They share a late-night snack, and Brandon brings up the book title. To his surprise, Matt also remembers it with an E. Brandon, unable to sleep, looks for answers on the internet. He finds something called the Mandela Effect, where lots of people remember things differently than they actually are. The Mandela Effect gets its name from people wrongly thinking Nelson Mandela died in prison. Brandon discovers many examples, like Darth Vader's famous quote and the spelling of Looney Tunes. Brandon becomes convinced that these differences in memory are due to jumping between parallel realities or living in a simulation. The next morning, Claire is getting ready to go back to work. Brandon notices a family photo on the fridge. It shows the Griffith Observatory, but Brandon remembers taking that same picture at the Pacific Science Center. This confuses both of them, but Claire thinks Brandon is just mistaken. Brandon is determined to prove his theory to his brother-in-law Matt. He shows Matt information about the Mandela Effect, including explanations and many examples. Brandon is sure they are shifting between different realities, but Matt doesn't believe him. Brandon becomes obsessed with the Mandela Effect. He watches documentaries on subjects like string theory and the possibility of living in a real matrix. This helps him distract himself from the grief of losing Sam. Brandon takes lots of notes, trying to make sense of this strange phenomenon. One day, Brandon goes to a priest to ask why God would take the life of a child like Sam. The priest explains that it wasn't God's plan. It was a result of free will, a gift from God with consequences. This adds another layer to Brandon's investigation. Later, Brandon meets with Matt again and continues to discuss the Mandela Effect. Matt talks to a neurologist friend who explains that our brains aren't perfect. Memories can get mixed up, and gaps can be filled with external information. Matt tries to convince Brandon it's just a coincidence, but Brandon remains stubborn. During dinner, Claire expresses her worry about Brandon. He's been withdrawn, and she thinks he should share his feelings. Brandon asks her to describe the Monopoly Man, and Claire says he has a monocle. However, when she checks the game box, there's no monocle. This confuses both of them. Brandon brings out Sam's Curious George book, claiming the monkey used to have a tail in the drawings. Claire is uncomfortable with Brandon using their daughter's death in this way. Brandon keeps talking about realities shifting, and Claire finally snaps. She scolds Brandon for not moving on and pouring his grief into this strange obsession. Brandon's fixation strains their relationship. In an attempt to distract himself, Brandon goes on a double date with Claire and Matt, who now has a new boyfriend. Brandon, who often found himself lost in his own thoughts, barely paying attention to the world around him. One day, he tried to escape to a bar to clear his mind, but his friend Matt reminded him of the importance of supporting his partner Claire. Realizing the truth in Matt's words, Brandon returned to the table. However, when he got home, his thoughts led him to dive into the world of simulation theory, a belief suggesting that our reality is like a computer program. Brandon, eager to find proof of a parallel universe where his friend Sam was still alive, began researching and documenting his findings on a board. To explore this theory further, Brandon watched videos of well-known people like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson discussing the topic. In his quest for knowledge, he stumbled upon the name Roland Fuchs, who supposedly was working on proving the simulation theory. Unfortunately, the video Brandon found was no longer available on regular websites. Undeterred, he turned to less reputable sources to download the video. The file was corrupted, but with some technical skills, Brandon managed to fix it. To his disappointment, the video got corrupted again, leaving him with nothing. Refusing to give up, Brandon searched for Dr. Fuchs' current workplace and recorded a video message for him. Despite his efforts, days passed without a response. Frustrated, Brandon decided to visit the university where Fuchs worked, hoping for a face-to-face meeting. However, Fuchs was too busy to entertain our fans' inquiries. Disheartened but determined, Brandon tried to focus on his personal life, attempting to be a better husband to Claire. Yet, he was haunted by what seemed like calls from Sam during intimate moments. Frustrated with Brandon's inner turmoil, Claire suggested he see a grief counselor. Ignoring her advice, Brandon instead visited Fuchs' house to get answers. Fuchs explained the Mandela Effect as fake memories but hinted that they might be glitches in the simulation after a system update. Brandon, still fixated on the idea of reality being a computer code, proposed hacking it. Fuchs dismissed this as ridiculous but suggested overloading the simulation, revealing the existence of a powerful quantum computer at the university. As they entered the lab, Dr. Manning interrupted their discussion, disapproving of Brandon's presence. Fuchs and Brandon retreated to Fuchs' house, where Fuchs theorized that Brandon might be a bug in the system. He warned Brandon about the danger of ideas. Troubled by questions about the nature of the simulation, whether it was recreational or power-hungry, Brandon dreamt of Sam's death. Upon waking, he rushed to Sam's room, witnessing a glitching shadow that disappeared. Struggling to clear his mind, Brandon drove around but saw the world as a complex code connected to a quantum computer. In a surreal experience, he ended up in a downtown alley, hearing a painful sound as reality glitched. Suddenly, he woke up in his bed. Confused and alarmed, Brandon discovered Sam in her own room. His reality seemed to warp, making him question his sanity. Claire attempted to comfort him, but Brandon, determined to find answers, immersed himself in books on quantum computing, working on a code to overload the simulation. Days passed with Brandon consumed by his coding endeavors, worrying Claire. One night, Sam appeared in her parents' room after a nightmare. Brandon peacefully slept beside her, only to wake up alone the next morning. Brandon felt like he was in a dream when he went downstairs, and to his surprise, Sam was there as if nothing had happened. Claire and Matt treated Sam like usual, so Brandon called everyone he knew to confirm his suspicions. No one remembered Sam's sad incident, and Brandon thought reality had changed. He wanted to talk to Fuchs about it, but Fuchs wouldn't answer his calls. Brandon believed the simulation brought Sam back to stop him from creating the code. Even though he was happy to have Sam back, strange things started happening. The family spent a lot of happy time together, but one night, Claire had a scary nightmare. She said she was fine, but the next day, Brandon found breakfast burning, and Claire seemed out of sorts. To cheer her up, Brandon took the family to paint pottery. However, cracks appeared on Brandon's pot, and Claire got upset, breaking objects because they weren't the right color. Worried about Claire, Brandon took her home, but she kept staring at Sam and getting upset, saying the girl shouldn't be there. Brandon thought the change in reality was making Claire sick. He asked Matt to watch over Sam and rushed to Fuchs' house, only to find out that Fuchs had deleted himself because people didn't take him seriously. Brandon was confused and saw a crack appear on the glass, which he thought was a sign from the simulation. Determined to make things right, he rushed home and started working on the code again. He also recorded a video for his family just in case the simulation did something bad to him. While Brandon worked, Matt took care of Claire, who became unresponsive. When the code was ready, Brandon went to the university to use the quantum computer. But Manning, the person at the university, blocked him and tried to call security. In their struggle, Brandon accidentally made Manning hit his head, and he passed away. Feeling guilty, Brandon took Manning's card key and kept going. He implanted his code into the computer, and strange things started happening. The computer made weird noises, and when Brandon rushed outside, he found the parking lot empty, and his car was gone. Suddenly, he was on a bus, and his wife called, saying she didn't feel good. Brandon noticed passengers glitching on the bus, and the city showed various glitches like changing times, colorful trees, and two moons in the sky. He ran home, witnessing more glitches, and found Claire and Sam. Claire's face glitched, and as two moons collided in the sky, everything went black. Then lines of code appeared on the screen as the universe rebooted itself from the beginning of existence, going through dinosaurs, lost civilizations, wars, and significant moments in human history. When the reboot stopped, Brandon was on the beach with his family again. This time, when Sam mentioned going for shells, Brandon made sure she left Curious George behind, saving her life.